Hoo-ha! You're listening to the Jaunty Mantis, a podcast of creative questions for curious gamers. My name's Jesse, and with me is my co-host, Matty. Say hello.
Hoo-ha!
Hoo-ha! Hoo-ha, Charlie. There may have been a tie.
The guy. Let me tell you, Charlie, there's nothing more that I like than a bigger. That guy.
Hoo-ha! It's going to be the whole episode, just warning you now.
Hoo-ha! Yeah, welcome to the Jaunty Mantis. We're a TTRPG podcast, and we are now in season 2. And Jesse, what's the theme of season 2?
The theme of season 2 is creation
without number.
Yes. We're workshopping that name as we are recording what is probably episode 2 of the season.
That's right. Yeah, and if you've enjoyed our bonus episodes, maybe you're glad that we're back to actual role-playing game topics instead of trying to wax intellectual on the finer points of Star Wars movies. But we're back. Yeah, it's season 2. We're ready to start creation.
Yeah, so a little bit of a backdrop for this. We got really into the idea coming off the genre episode, which will be episode 1 of this season. So by now you're listening to episode 2. And we just thought, one of the things we really, really like to do and have for the entirety of our friendship is create settings and ideas and mechanics together. So we just thought, hey, let's, lean into that and give some examples of tools and resources that are out there to help you create the worlds that you play your TTRPGs in.
Right.
And
think of this as like an actual play for creating a campaign setting or an adventure or whatever we decide to get up to in season 2.
So luckily, and this is kind of why we're calling it Creations Without Number, there's this guy. You may have heard his name, friend of the show. I wish he was. No one knows how to contact him. He's an enigma, a cipher, but I brought him up many times. His name is Kevin Crawford. He runs like one of the sharpest Kickstarter based RPG companies, Sine Nomine Publishing. They usually deliver a month ahead of time. Like if you are a listener and you ever think about kickstarting an RPG, he's done blog posts about what it takes. And his advice is basically like write the whole book before you write a Kickstarter. Just write the whole book. Yeah, and he has these amazing tools. If you want to follow along, pause if you're not listening to this on a drive and you want to follow, I actually can't imagine anyone sitting at their desk just listening to the Jaunty Mantis. But if you want to follow along, we will be using for this episode Cities Without Number, which is Kevin Crawford's cyberpunk game. And it has some really great setting creation rules in it. And it is available for free on DriveThruRPG. All of his major Without Number books have a free version and a deluxe version that has additional content in the back. All the content we're talking about today is in the free version. And yeah, if you're into cyberpunk, go check it out because it's super cool.
Yeah. And I probably have very little knowledge of Crawford and his work compared to Jesse. But what I can say is over the time that I've been exposed to his work, whether it was Godbound or, Worlds Without Number, which is a book I checked out previously to us even starting this podcast. You get lost in his material. It has this weird, compelling aspect of it, which just draws you in. He makes rules interesting, setting interesting, and creating a setting. I think there's amazing tips and advice and a great flow to follow in these books. And so that's what we wanted to focus on, is we figured if you, the audience, had a chance to hear how we do it, not to say that we're experts at it, but it's something we enjoy doing. And I'm the kind of person where if I can see other people or listen to other people do things I'm interested in, it often helps me in the long run. And that's kind of the impetus, is that the right word, behind this season. So we're going to devote the entire season to the creative process.
Yep. And to jump into that, this is a section that is in every Without Number book. I'd just like to go over it real quick, just for a quick react, because as much as I love these tools, and this is the thing too to think about, these are tool sets. You don't actually have to play this game, though. I have no problem with it. Principles of creation. All of his games are designed to be sandbox games.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has some principles of creation in the creation section. Everyone, principle number one: sandbox games are driven by the players. Oh God.
This is one of the best pieces of advice that any GM could take to heart. And as soon as you figure this out, your games are going to be better for it. I wish I had known this earlier on in my role-playing game career. Is that the right word? I'm not making any money at this, but when I was trying to run games, I wish I understood this concept, because it would have saved me a lot of time and turmoil in, how to design a game, what makes a game work, what are the best features of a game. As GMs, we tend to try to look at games like it's our baby, it's our Bible, it's our world, it's our events and our history playing out, but it really isn't about us at all.
I'm going to throw in a caveat again here. It is a little bit about us, because I will say you are also a player.
True. True.
Like, if
I'll
you're not
concede that.
having fun, you shouldn't be doing it. But
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, principle two: the plot of a sandbox campaign is what happens.
true story.
Uh this is the part of his advice that I'm just like, this is where I had that same moment, Matty.
Mhm.
Uh you only need to stay one session ahead.
Yeah, that would have been crippling to me in my younger years. I can picture the spiral notebooks filled up with page after page of outlines and mythos and who the major players are and what do they do if this happens. So, what does that mean? Only need to stay one session ahead. What does that mean for you, Jesse?
You If you're not enjoying your prep. Now, the notebooks you're talking about from when we were teenagers, I had fun doing that. And so no regrets.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe it would have been more fun if my players had respected my art. But yeah. uh but yeah, you just need the next adventure. And one of his tips is always like, at the end of the session, ask the players, like, put a couple hooks in the adventure for tonight, and at the end of the session, ask the players, what do you want to do next time? And then you prep that.
Mhm.
And that takes us to the last principle of, if you're not having fun and you don't need this content for the next session, stop it.
I love this. I love that. It's so perfect. It really is just like, stop doing something you don't like and
Yeah,
start doing something you do like. Because I also enjoyed filling up those spiral notebooks, but what I didn't enjoy is when it didn't get used, when it didn't land, when it started to get frustrating. And I've created tons of content that'll never get used.
the world is a sadder place for that, Maddie. A
Yeah,
sadder place for that indeed.
sure. All right.
I'm sadder that it won't get used, at least.
It won't get used because it's not good. And that's the thing, is we as GMs, like anyone who wants to be a GM, let me just say this, like, I tip my hat to you. A common phrase that my father says constantly is, hey, remind yourself you're not perfect. And I think that's an important thing to remember for being a GM. Remind yourself you're not perfect. Forgive yourself. Make it okay to make mistakes. You don't have to be a Stephen King level storyteller. You're not writing the Lord of the Rings. And in your heart is the passion and the drive to want to run a game and a shared play experience for other people. And that's amazing. Like, I hang out with in-laws or friends who don't game, or if I talk to strangers, and it's like, we as gamers, especially those of us who run games, we participate in something that is so unique and special that the vast majority of all other people not only don't do it, but they have no concept of it. I love all of my friends. Some of them don't understand role playing games, let alone why you would want to be the person facilitating that game. So you are that special person. Make this job as easy on yourself as you can and use the necessary tools that make it and keep it fun for you along the way.
Yep. And okay, I'm gonna have a little bit of hubris before we formally gear up. Speaking of gear up, I've thrown a link in the chat to a document where we can record things as we go.
Sure.
This may be hubris. I expect what comes out of tonight is going to be, in my head, really cool. And I'm going to love it and be like, why aren't we playing a campaign in this? Because that's what happens every time Matty and I have one of these conversations.
True story.
If I am right about that, and I could be very wrong, this could be already the engines on fire. We're spiraling out of the sky like the oxygen masks have deployed. Who knows? But if I'm right, I just want to remind y'all that this is a conversation between two humans that love each other very much, are used to each other's communication style, and have been doing this for 23 years, 22 years. So this is not our first try. And if you're going through this process and being like, it wasn't as cool as the Jaunty Mantis, therapy is a good place to start. We should cut this. I was trying to be helpful and I just sound like a prick.
No,
you're gonna keep it in because I said I sound like a prick, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it in, definitely. But you make a great point in that you and I do have chemistry and we do have the ability to play off of each other's ideas. And if you haven't already heard that in the podcast already, including episode 1 of this season, where Jesse solves the problem for me right after I say it, like that's an example of what we're talking about. So don't be intimidated by our process. Just listen to it and enjoy it. And if there's something here for you, that's awesome. If you start to listen to this and you're like, you know what, this is bullshit and I can do this in my sleep and these guys are idiots, fair play. That's totally fine. Keep listening to it also so we can have the download. I don't know. Whatever the case may be.
Speaking of the download. Jack in, friend. Set the lights to neon. Listen to the rain patter on the glass. Smooth jazz mixed with bumping chiptunes. The streets are dangerous tonight. Cyberpunk. We already used the cool music for our intro, so never mind. Okay. So when you create a cyberpunk world, according to the system, you have a couple of levels to go through, and we're going to run through these tonight. The first is the world, which is a very high-level overview. The second is the city.
Mid-level.
And then you have the district, which is where play mostly happens. The city is made up of districts.
The bottom level.
The bottom level, yes. And there will be people in and places and organizations. So, page 110 in the book, if you're following along at home. Choose a date. What year is it?
Oh, this one I really like because, and they give this advice in this book of why you would choose a future date or a past date. And this is a great way to start a cyberpunk game because it really does put you in the mindset, because we all have different ideas of what cyberpunk is, and different things have different cyberpunk elements, and different aspects of cyberpunk are based on when they were made and what those projections were into the future. Shadowrun, perfect example. If Shadowrun's future had come anywhere close to what they predicted in this game, we'd all be walking around with keytar-sized computers that, and jacking into our heads into our bank or whatever the case may be.
We'd all be dead of vitus if Shadowrun was
Yeah,
true.
that's true. There's more to it than that. So Jesse, what's our date? I'm a child of the 80s. I love picking a date from the past. When I read this in this book, I was like, oh, this is so fucking smart. Let's pick a date in the past. The year is 2005. The world has come to a dystopian end, like there's nothing funnier than watching a movie, especially from the 80s, where they put the future date on the screen and you're like, wait a minute, that was like 10 years ago and we're fine. So I'm a fan of doing that. Jesse, what do you say for the date?
Yeah, I agree. It's my first answer is going to be it's 20 XDX, but you know, yeah, let's set it 2005. I like
All
it.
right.
We'll take those 80s predictions of what the future was going to be and say it's the year 2005.
That's right.
And the just you did the voice. I can hear it in my head. I can hear the dun 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 dun, dun like 80s synth music. All right. The next step we do after we have our date determined 2005 is we choose a global problems. Do you want to use the tables? I kind of want to use the tables.
Yeah. Why are we choosing a global problem though?
So a big element of cyberpunk, of course, is dystopia. Like what are the huge global problems that have shaped this dystopia is a key thing to sort of understanding or sparking ideas for the world that we're going to play in. So we've got a D20 table and we should do two of them. Do you have a 20-sided die handy?
I can make one on the computer machine real quick. All
The
right.
year is 2005.
I'm going to roll a D20. I got a 6.
6. Problem 1. Oh, well, that's dark. Climate change.
Oh, wow. This one's hitting a little close to home here, people.
Ooh, we're here for fun.
What page is this on?
This is on page 112. Climate change.
Right.
Large portions of the world are now substantially hotter, colder, wetter, drier, or otherwise different from how they are at present. This outcome may have derived from human activity, solar perturbations, meteor strikes, interstellar dust clouds, or the nebulous work of unfathomable forces.
All right. So what kind of climate change are we thinking? In most cyberpunk, how would you describe the climate?
Fucked.
I mean, would you think that things are generally got too hot or too cold? Maybe you start there.
I want to see what the second problem is.
Okay, fair enough.
And then ping off that. But I like what you said about cold.
Yep. Now you know where I'm going with this. Do you want me to roll a D20 again?
Yep.
Okay. My next roll was a 3.
3. Oh. Caste formation. An international elite of hereditary megacorp families has formed a new caste of rulers and oligarchs. Lesser breeds could only hope to attach themselves to some powerful dynasty. We just made Snowpiercer.
Yeah, basically.
Can only hope to attach themselves to some powerful dynasty and reap the rewards of loyal service. People take it as a commonplace that these elites are smarter, better, and wiser than ordinary people.
Yeah, I got ideas. Do we need another problem?
I don't think we do.
Okay.
All right. I got a pitch.
Go ahead.
You got a pitch?
Ready. I do. I have a pitch as well, but I think we're going to pitch the same thing. Go ahead.
Okay. Nuclear winter. The technology was enough that while there was mass death, it didn't just devastate humanity, but it cooled the earth substantially. And the people that had access to the tech that let them heat things and keep out the rads, as it were, basically created the top of this caste system. And so there are these fortified cities uh, where heat is the primary commodity because it's bitterly cold.
Yes. Yes. I was going in a very similar direction. One of my favorite things about because I haven't read the books, I'm waiting for for some time in the future to read the books. The show The Expanse has a scene on the space station where the guy takes a shower in somebody else's apartment, and you realize that he's like enjoying every second of it because water is so limited on the station. And that was immediately what jumped into my head, is that heat is so valuable that to have any amount of it is a symbol of status and wealth, and is your means to progressing through society. And they have the technology in this city to concentrate enough heat to certain parts of it, and only the smartest, I'm using quotes here, smartest, most apt, best suited to lead society, are allowed to live in these areas where the heat is where the source of heat is regular. And I was also thinking of almost like a Hunger Games kind of aspect to it, where the city every so often allows people to move from station to station in this society to get closer to the heat.
I'm picturing like the upper caste has like huge domes because let's say the technology is like super cheap and not
Mm.
hard to maintain, but they just keep such a control on it because they're capitalist as motherfuckers that like up on the top levels of the city, like
Hmm.
there's domes that it looks like 1950s suburbia up there, like
Right.
because they can just heat so much. They've got plant samples, the sky's blue because they scrub it, like it's just like, oh, everything very, like Stepford Wives creepy. In the lower cities, whoever's strong enough,
Hmm.
like the gangs control proximity to the heating pipes, like that
Hmm.
don't even put out heat, but being near them is warm enough to be alive.
Right.
So, like, yeah.
And this starts to, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves in the process, because I know there's a part of the Kevin Crawford process in this book about when things start to go wrong. So I'll bookmark that for later because I have an idea for that. But that means we also need to come up with, and here's a separate tangent, is how is heat distributed if you are temporarily away from the pipes? Is the cold so lethal that you need to carry heat in devices in order to keep yourself alive? Is there a lethality, it, and how immediate is it for different parts of the city? Like, do parts of the outer parts of the city even look like frozen, um like winter wonderlands, like do you understand what I'm talking about? Like, they almost look like they belong in a snow globe, like the exterior parts of the city.
Yeah. I got this image in my head of like, you always see the neon. You always see the neon in the rain in a cyberpunk game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking of the neon in the snow and the reason why. Weird little story. One year when I was in China, there was like a freak snowstorm on Chinese New Year. And if you think like fireworks are bad on holiday in an American city, like the people who invented them, um, like it was like war footage and the light diffuses in the snow, so it's just like these just color blooms just like pulse and then the weird echoey percussion, and I'm just picturing the neon in the snow and ash. We're going to do districts. I feel like it's vertical
Okay.
because heat rises
Yes.
and so does the cream of the crop. But I think there's probably a shanty town. I don't think it's so cold you like freeze within an hour. But
Okay.
I think if you can't find shelter like 7 to 8 hours without like good clothes,
Hmm.
will give you frostbite and then kill you.
Okay.
I
That's
think
fair.
probably the global mean temperature is probably something like 10 to 15 degrees. And I don't know if that's scientifically accurate for how fast it will kill you, but
Gotcha. Okay, that works for me. I still would like some sort of transportable heat technology in this environment, however. Even if cold is not, it does not have that brutal lethality to it. Um, I think it's an interesting element to have the characters have to trade in a currency of heat, and it's stuff that they can. I don't know if it's a device that they can load cartridges into, or if it's the cartridges themselves, or something like that. But I think taking the heat as a literal form of currency in life, I think, is a great way to impress the setting upon the players.
I love that.
Cool, cool,
I
cool.
also, very obviously people hear influences here, but I also love the idea that, hey, what if there's a piece of cyberware that basically you replace your blood with antifreeze?
Oh, yes.
Like, and it's so expensive that people like can pretty much only get it for an indenture contract.
hmm Oh, that's perfect. Then you can make all sorts of really cool merc like antagonists and villains,
Yeah.
like you can make sympathetic characters. You can offer that as a player character option where it's like you have donated your body to this servitude in exchange for the ability to just live in some sort of relative comfort by having this addition or feature to your body now.
Yep. But you have to change it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we should also come up with how that's done because it should not be clean. It should definitely be painful, and it should be something that like attracts attention, like it smells terrible or something like that.
Oh yeah, and there's definitely a black market like
Yeah.
bathtub antifreeze blood market like in the Undercity where like yeah, you might live like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love
because
it.
cyberpunk technology did not empower you. You give up, more of your humanity and more of your freedom just to get an edge to keep ahead in this hyper capitalistic hell. Wow, we made a terrible place.
I mean, where you got to hit all the important elements of cyberpunk, right? Which is like ultra violent, despair, um, there's an element of social commentary with like the state of what is it? Like the state of consumerism and capitalism and um making extrapolations on what we have today or the potential of what's coming tomorrow. And so I think that's what you as long as we hit those core aspects, we're making a great cyberpunk game.
Cool. Cool, cool,
What's
cool.
next?
All right. Jumping back to page 110 on our checkbox, we
Alrighty.
have, or sorry, not page 110. I think, yeah, there's a list of themes: alienation, commoditization, consumerism, dehumanization, despair, and escapism. I think we've almost covered all of those.
Yeah, definitely. If we want to focus on a couple of them specifically, I'm open to that too.
Okay. What's our regional focus? Where is our city?
Well, for this one, I think it's important that you regionally choose either a city that exists in our world or we make up a fake city. Like it's either a city that survived whatever's happened or it's a city that's been built because of what's happened. And I usually like to go with a city that's been built from what's happened. I like the idea of a vertical city and it makes me think of, well, then actually in this case we could use an established city. So I live in Chicago. Jesse used to live in Chicago, and one day a piece of the street crumbled and fell through, and you got to look down into the hole. And people said, "What's that down there?" And somebody said, "That's old Chicago." And Futurama makes fun of this, but cities being built on top of past versions of cities. And I think you could go that route with our city, especially with it being vertical, is the concept of building on top of itself. So I like the idea of using both of these concepts, making it a fake city with a real origin, so that at some point the player characters can discover that this was an actual city from our world. What do you think about that?
Think we got to bump the date.
Okay. Why?
Just, I'm trying to think for the premise we've created that we had technology that made, I hate to call nuclear winter a minor inconvenience, but made it, not the technology existed to make that not an extinction level event, not a civilization ending event.
Hmm.
Um, I just feel like the plausibility that that happened in 25 years from 1980, if we're sort of putting ourselves in the viewer of this cyber dystopia, to be a
Gotcha.
lot.
Yeah. Well, there's two routes you can go with that. One, I think you're making a great point. You can go that route. The other one is you can take some sort of extreme measure that doesn't actually happen and is not actually based on pure science in our own world. Like in Snowpiercer, for example, what they tried to alter the environment significantly, and that's what caused this effect. It wasn't a nuclear winter. It's like they tried to, I think, do something with the ozone layer or whatever. Um, so there's that route as well. But pitch me on putting it into the future. So what's our new date?
Um, I want to go like it's 2350 or like 2370 or something.
Okay.
And here's why. Just if we want to have that reveal of it was an old city, it needs to be kind of so far in the future that it's presumable none of those cities would exist anymore.
Okay. That's fair. Okay. 2370.
Yep. What's the biggest city near the equator?
Let's see what Google says.
Did you hear about the plumes from the boats?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna try and do this real quick for you. So you remember how this year, like the ocean off Florida got like crazy hot,
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch of people were freaking out like this is an extinction level event, like this is it, and it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of scientists were expecting that because 2 years ago this law went into effect banning this kind of diesel that the cargo ships were using. And so what happened is that diesel had sulfur dioxide or something in it, something that seeds clouds. So basically, these transport ships just going across this patch of ocean because it's one of the most heavily traveled shipping lanes in the world were seeding clouds, and the cloud cover kept the water cooler.
Hmm.
Like the pollution had a knock-on effect of keeping the water temperature down. So this is an El Nino year. This year there wasn't that cloud cover, and the temperature in the water shot up,
Interesting.
which gave some people the idea, you know, we could seed clouds.
Right. Which gets us to Snowpiercer.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So large cities near the equator, there's a bunch of them. I think from this list on the internet, we have Bogota, Colombia, we have Singapore, we have Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I have a tendency to go with things that most people would just recognize immediately, and I feel like Bogota, Colombia is very recognizable. What do you think? But that's just me.
Yeah, I think also too I worry that we'll get into trouble with setting it in Asia. So
Yeah. That's the
yeah.
other advantage to using a made up city that only has roots in reality is like if you're trying to be more sensitive or culturally sensitive, or if you don't want to do the straight white guy thing that a lot of us straight white guys do, which is take stuff from other cultures and then modify it so it's the cool thing in our crazy story that usually ends up being the monsters or the weird magic. Make it up your own thing kind of gives you a little bit of room from that. So we don't even have to make it an actual city. We can just use a completely made up city, which is maybe what we should do.
Yeah. I had a friend from Colombia and they showed me pictures of like the landscape around Bogota and it's beautiful. Let's put it in the middle of the ocean.
Okay.
because they're frozen solid,
Yeah, why not?
right? It's the middle of the ocean somewhere. Maybe there's some mountains nearby. That could be any island chain in the world. We can nail that down later.
Right. And that could be a cool reveal in its own that your city that you live in is actually on top of the old ocean.
Yeah, it grew out of an underwater colony.
Hmm. I love it.
Cool.
All right, what's next?
Any superpowers?
Superpowers, does cybertech count as superpowers?
No, I mean, like, are there any national
Oh,
governments that have superpower status?
right. That's hilarious. Yes, there are superpowers.
Who are
There
they?
they are they okay, so the superpowers at work here, one of them is a society or corporation that is convinced it's doing the right thing. It's convinced that only a certain amount of the human race actually has the ability to make life better, that the rest of us are just like wastoids who are contribute nothing to society. And this is the organization that has enacted the Hunger Games-esque process of lifting people up in order to find them and elevate them towards the heat.
So my question is that a thing that happens in a bunch of cities across the world, all controlled by this one overarching structure? Or is
Yes.
that a local city
Well,
thing that
yeah, it depends
exists
on
in
the
the
scale.
scope of this one city as an injustice to, survive? And I don't want to say an injustice to fight in a cyberpunk game. It's an injustice to survive.
I feel like this is something that exists in all cities, and it's based on a protocol that was enacted when the horrible shit got past the point of no return. Like when the catastrophe of this world gets to a point where people realize, oh shit, we're fucked. This is it. Like they start opening up all this like maybe old government policy that was written or guidebooks or they start like reading stuff about like you know uh that was written by people who predicted events like this, and they've taken it as gospel. Like it's grown into gospel in the future, almost to the point where it could even have religious connotations to it about
Okay.
elevation and
It's a
human beings.
mysterious body above the corporate level,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Okay.
called ETA.
It's called ETA. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I
EDA, the ETA.
Okay. What do we call it? EDA.
No one knows anymore, but it used to stand for Emergency Disaster Authority.
Nice. Okay. I like that.
And then people can talk about in the words of the Edda, like,
That's awesome.
and it kind of pings off the poetic Edda, which is a Viking poem. So Vikings, I don't know, just getting some ideas,
I
getting
like
loosey
it.
goosey with it.
I like it. Now,
Okay.
does the Edda have are there faces of the Edda? Like are there deities of it? Or is it just like an idea? Like does it have deification? Um, you know, does it have religious structure?
I say we don't answer that yet
Okay.
until we get into organizations and things. But having said we don't answer that yet, I think even the corpse toe the Edda line.
Okay. Yeah.
Why, if that's a mystery the players are interested in, maybe it can be revealed in game, but like they at least pay lip service to the Edda. And yeah, I want there to be like another superpower of people that threw off Edda regulations, but they're so far in another part of the world that it doesn't even really matter. I don't see there being a lot of like inner city travel. Like,
Mhm. I like the idea of a corporate structure that is practicing a system of beliefs that it may or may not necessarily believe in, but is considered a part of fitting into the corporate structure. You know,
that's like every corporation.
I know it means that
Like our values are, we live for our values.
well, and then you have those people that are like, why are we even doing this? It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like, it's you could have people that observe certain, it's like playing golf with the boss or whatever, which I fortunately have never had to do, but because I don't like golf. But you know what I'm saying? Like we could implement all of these ritualistic like behaviors that in a corporate structure, there are those who practice them because they think it advances you, and there are those that openly reject it.
Yep. Oh man, there's so a plot about like a dynastic succession struggle. Like the kid's a traditionalist and the dad is just like,
Mm-hmm.
nah, fuck the Edda. Like,
Yeah,
but he's the CEO of one of the okay, never mind. Too far ahead.
too
Too
far
far
ahead.
ahead.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Make 5 major megacorps. We got a table for this.
Let's roll on it. What do we need? What should I roll? A D20?
And we can't pick a country for each one, so we can pick a different tower. Creating Megacorps, page 126.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna roll one D20. 16.
The main corporate fortress. Oh, this is perfect. The main corp focus is power generation.
Wow. And I thought this could be a challenge. Okay. Well, then we got to double down on that. If the because that's so on the nose, we need to do more with it.
Well, let's roll 2d20 two more times to see what the general corp style is.
Okay. 2D20, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Our total is 10.
Oh, I need each roll.
Oh, 8 and 2.
2, brutish. Okay, brutish, relying on money and influence to force its products into success. And then 8 is fraudulent, relying on political influence and force to sell half functional goods.
Okay, I got thoughts on this. And this
All
is
right.
based on something you said earlier on in this process. Because what
Okay.
you said was that the ability to create heat is actually ridiculously easy. So we make because it's power generation for this corporation and because it is fraudulent and it is brutish, the company has been trying to maximize profits by creating less stable, cheaper, even easier to produce heat. And it is causing destruction. It is causing overload in the system.
Oh yeah, they say we can't get to the Undercity to maintain the pipes. The gangs are too rough. They attack our crews, and so they just let the pipes rust out. So those people who live off the scavenged heat from the pipes, like periodically, a pipe will blow and just take a whole community out. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
and then they go in and patch it.
you could have you could have an underground force of opposition that has figured out how to make its own heat as well.
Mm-hmm. What is this corpse particular strength? Roll a 1d20.
All right. Got a 10.
Strength. Their schemes are unusually effective.
Okay. So their schemes are unusually effective. So they've managed to convince the heat provided populace, the people who live in relative or better comfort with this heat, that this is actually a problem that's happening. They have convinced them that of everything you just said about the pipes and it wiping out whole communities, they have turned sections of the city's public against each other because of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. No, it was an illegal tap that caused that pipe to rupture, causing an unfortunate increase in price in the upper city.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
We have to use this to defend our way of life
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
from these godless savages in the undercity who don't know the words of Edda. Um,
Love it.
recent corporate event.
All
Roll a
right.
1d20.
Here it comes. We got a one.
It's losing money with its current products.
Interesting.
Hmm.
The
I have another thought about the its schemes are unusually effective,
okay.
given the essential nature of its product. Like it has monitoring equipment everywhere. So like everyone's being if you're anywhere near a heating device, you're being monitored.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh yeah. That's
they can't pay attention to all the data they gather, but like,
that's an amazing spin on, being monitored by, the corporate machine.
yep. That's why their schemes are unusually effective because they just know when they want to do something to one of their rivals, they're just like, well, what are they up to? Oh, I
And
see.
and it's losing money with its current products can tie into the idea that there are people who have figured out how to make the technology and have realized how cheap and effective it is.
Cool. Current
So,
corporate goal.
current corporate goal. Let's
Mhm.
roll 1d20. I got an 11.
11. Force open a currently closed market.
Hmm. What is a currently closed market in this city when heat is the product? That would be development, right? They are trying to there is an overpopulation of people in the sectors that can produce heat, and the seams in the lie are starting to be seen by the public, right? Where it, the original idea was they claimed that there's only a certain amount of room, but it's become so profitable to supply heat that the corporation has doubled down and doubled down and doubled down on it. Like, we'll provide as much heat as we can. They've waxed the palms of the politicians to get regulations changed on population control, and now the heat producing somewhat quote unquote comfortable sectors of the city are now overpopulated, and
Yeah, and
so
you
go for it.
can't build up because then you'd pave over the dome of the elites. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to go down.
Mm-hmm.
But the stories they've been telling about the people down there who've been living, the people who've just been taken off the system and like
Uh-huh.
making it hard for everybody who's middle class.
Uh-huh.
God, I hate human beings.
So the currently closed market is a development scheme that is the hinting to the old city, the old part of the city. It's this whole, like, you think of like those movies from the 1950s, or the propaganda around like suburban development, and they had like those animations or those pictures up of like the happy home, the two cars, the wife at the oven, and the happy family. And it's like they have that whole thing, but we'll do it differently in our world, where it's like they have created a mythos around this part of the city that people didn't know existed, and they are secretly re-renovating it to try to open it up to the public as a new place with heat.
Yeah, but people live there already.
Yeah.
And so it's over budget beyond its timeline. They're losing money. The areas they have managed to open, there keep being accidents there. And so people are scared to move in. So, like,
Yep.
yep.
Love it.
And then we need a name. So, first, we need a D20 for the name element,
Okay. That will be the number 19.
a river name.
A river name.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, that's interesting considering the city is on top of an ocean.
It could, hey, what? All right, currents,
There you go.
major ocean current names. Aglhas,
Aglhas.
Agulhas, the Aglhas Current,
Wow, that's the name of a corporation.
or
Aglhas.
Kuroshio.
I
But
feel I feel like the
It's
name
too easy to give him a Japanese sounding
it
name.
it does play into that whole 80s stereotype of the genre, right? And we can't be so deliberate to call it like Jetstream.
Equatorial, um, Labrador,
Labrador. All right.
Canary,
Here is a list of the 10 most important rivers in the world. Sepik, Mississippi, Volga, Zambezi, Mekong, Ganges, Danube, Yangtze, Yangtze,
the Yangtze.
Yangtze, Nile, and Amazon.
The Urge. I like Volga.
Okay. You want to know how it's spelled, or do you already know because you're a smart guy?
Bolga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have not been actually taking notes, so
I don't have editor access to the note page. The Volga is the longest river in Europe and one of Russia's most important rivers.
yeah, Volga. And then we need a separate corp element to the name.
5.
Community.
That's
Volga
perfect.
community.
That's perfect. Supplying heat to your community for the last 50 years. Volga.
Your community is our community. Volga.
The warmth's in our hearts, the warmth's in our hearths. Volga.
Yes. Yep.
Are you warm today? Volga.
Obey. Volga. Um, yeah, that's the thing. It's so easy too to just lean into full dystopia and forget the cyberpunk is they are totally like a shit-eating grin corporation that makes dumb advertising like that
Oh
shows up
yeah.
when you try and watch Hulu.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's an important element of cyberpunk is the over the top extrapolation of advertising, which gets further the closer and closer we get to it, the further and further it is as a relevant concept. Because if you look at our own marketing and advertising that we have today, it's like it's not that big of a step.
the gross exaggeration of media and advertising to make a point about capitalism. I'd buy that for $1.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yes. We've got our problems. We've made the main megacorp. We will probably need to make a couple others, but for sake of time, we can do that off air, maybe report back
Mm-hmm.
or pick it up next week. But let's get some more bones going. Vertical city means we can kind of stack maps,
Mm-hmm.
like just take map sections from other things and just say level 1, level 2. Marking out districts, I think the levels in a
Mm-hmm.
broad sense, the levels are a great way.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
And there's probably some sort of shanty town carrion district around the base of the tower that
Mm-hmm.
they can get enough heat out of the system to stay alive out there. But
True story.
okay. So let's get our city's problems. This is why I love Crawford. Some of the following 50 calamities have shaped life in your city and its surrounding regions. So we are going to roll at least twice on the table to get problems in the city.
What page?
This is a D100 roll. It's page 116.
Okay. Our roll is 14.
Okay. 14. Civil War.
No, that fits.
Yep. District against district. Let's see what the text says. The region was split between two or more mutually hostile governments, each determined to crush all opposition. They may have splintered along ideological lines, ethnic faith, or corporate allegiances, but the destruction was calamitous. One of the sides may have won a convincing victory, or they may have simply fought each other in a mutually exhausted stalemate. I don't like that one. It doesn't make as much sense with our city. Let's re-roll it.
Oh, okay. 36.
Ooh, failed invasion.
All right, I'm listening.
The lower level people. It was a
And they
riot.
and they failed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It wasn't a failure to repel them. It was a failed invasion on the lower levels to the upper levels.
Yes. And that destroyed a lot of the progress on the gentrification of
Could you
because
do it
that's
the
what
other way around? Could you do it a failed invasion from the top to the bottom? Because we did mention that there is a mythical esque piece of potential development.
I don't see the top levels failing if they wanted to just go in and kill a bunch of lower level people.
Well, the lower levels got to have something at their disposal.
Yep, bodies is basically what.
All right, we'll do lower level to top level. That makes sense. This is eerily similar to Snowpiercer, but yes.
Except it's in a tower.
Yeah.
What if it was in an airplane that had to travel around?
What if it was an airplane being pulled around the world by a big train?
Ooh, like a glider, yeah. Um, okay, and then we need another problem.
Okay, let's roll it. We got a 13.
That's Civil War again.
It is? All right.
Yes.
Then we got.
Wait, let me explain why I don't like Civil War.
Okay, go for it.
I don't think there's like, I don't know, I guess it could be something against the ETA. I just don't know. I feel like the cities are pretty independent city states. They don't have a whole lot of like region around them with turf or territory to control.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost like our colleges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I'm into it. How about 68?
Offensive war. I mean, all war is kind of offensive, but the region went to war against a neighbor, provoked by their actions or tempted by the prospect of easy pickings. The attack may or may not have been successful, but a generation of locals has been shaped by military service and the privations of wartime life. So they went done ham on the neighboring tower.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what was the cause of that?
I don't know.
Maybe it will reveal itself in time.
Yeah. Probably something about like our way of life and freedom and
Well, there has to be divisions even within the heated community.
yeah, no, I mean there's gonna be the other corps. Like we Volga's the big one because they do the heating, but there's other services. Like it
Mm-hmm.
is a hyper capitalism.
Gotcha. Okay.
We can re-roll it if you don't like that one. If
No,
it's
I
too
like it.
similar to failed invasion.
No, it'll force us to be more creative. We just don't have to answer it right this second.
I mean, it could be the undercity invaded and failed, and the the upper city like went to war with
Mm-hmm.
the
The upper city went to war with the upper city,
with the mid city,
with the mid city. Yeah.
who actually had very little to do with the lower city invasion.
It
But
could be commentary on the uselessness of the middle class.
yes, wait, aren't we both middle? Okay, never mind. The guys with the podcast about games where you imagine you're someone else.
I mean, I don't have kids, so I might be middle class by default because I have disposable income.
Fair. Okay, we will make the core district where the players live.
Okay.
So we have a couple things we need to do to build this district. We need to choose the district traits, choose the district government, define local gangs, and then I think that'll be a good pausing point to record the back half.
Okay. So
So defining
D100.
traits of a district is um okay. Yeah, it's a D100 table on page 122.
Okay, 13. Again, jeez.
Canal District.
Interesting. Where
Where
other
other districts?
districts have streets, this one has waterways. It may be the product of never corrected flooding, a seacoast geography, or a city improvement plan gone awry. Oh, what's that word?
Awry.
Awry. Holy shit, Jesse. I've never seen this word actually in type. Wow. Can we re-record this and you read it so I sound like less of an idiot?
Okay. I don't think you sound like an idiot. I think you have a beautiful man voice, and everybody makes mistakes when they're reading sometimes. Canal District. Where other districts have streets, this one has waterways. It may be the product of a never corrected flooding, a seacoast geography, or a city improvement plan gone awry. Oh, damn it. Awry. But the locals have gotten used to getting around in small boats. Aquatic cyber is relatively common here.
Interesting. Wow. A canal district.
It's pipes.
Mm-hmm.
It's open pipes that like sluice water. Like,
Right, but it's an official district.
well, that's a trait of the district. It's not the canal district, but in this district, there are open waterways.
Gotcha. Okay. Are we going to say that their water is contaminated?
Oh, of course it's contaminated. You think people would just leave a valuable resource necessary for life open? Like,
And then how contaminated? Like creating mutants contaminated
I
or
think it definitely creates mutants.
wow. All right.
Do you think this is lower city or mid city?
I want to say this is a mid-city problem
Okay.
because I would think that the lower city they would be like, geez, you guys have water? That's amazing. Like in
Yeah.
the lower city, it's too cold to have water. Like we have ice, right? We have poisonous, polluted, acidic, or damaging ice, but to have actual water, like people in the lower city haven't even seen water before.
So I think we need to reworkshop this name because I think it's from something. The Spire,
Mm-hmm.
the upper city, the mid city, the lower city, the ring, and the sub city.
Okay. I like it.
That was in order of quality of livableness too.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Let's give the mid city another trait.
Okay. I've got 84.
Number 84, shifting trait. Ooh, roll twice on the table. The first trait is ending here, but whatever force or circumstance is ending it is also giving birth to the second trait.
Okay. All right. First roll 14.
Canal district.
Reroll 65.
65. What is ending? Open parkland.
Open parkland. Okay.
Yeah.
What is that? What is open parkland?
I mean, what does an open park look like in the mid city? Maybe it's just a patch that,
Near wilderness conditions. Well, this is a city that's built on a portion of ocean. So is there cultivated like sea life that has been incorporated into this park? Like
yeah, maybe it's
seaweed
like a
and
quasi abandoned like kelp farm, like
mm-hmm.
huge area that's like been stocked with like near wilderness sea life.
Like there could be a mythos or a legend around this area that it was, some sort of development project that incorporated all this, sea life or coral or seaweed or whatever, kelp or whatever the case may be. and there's an end to it and a beginning of whatever comes next, which is 36.
Number 36. Oh, I thought it was 26 for a second. I was like, uh-oh. A grand structure.
Wow.
They're going to pave paradise and put in a parking lot.
A grand structure. Interesting. So like a new generator or something from one of the other corps we haven't figured out yet.
Or this is where they're building the development.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that would be an easy one right there. Yeah,
Yep.
that's perfect.
So they're going to drain out this, you know,
That's perfect.
source
Yeah.
of source of food, genetic diversity, like actual resources. They're going to drain it, and in order to build this new development for to alleviate the mild overcrowding of the upper city.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
So in a sense, yes, take paradise and put it. All right, let's make a gang.
Okay.
All right. First, what is the main gang income?
Roll D20
Mm-hmm.
or
The main gang income is city government lobbying.
wow. Wow. A
I don't know.
gang of lobbyists? That's amazing.
I can't, yeah. I didn't know how to feel about it. Okay, what's the gang's general style? Oh, this is
Is
gonna get real weird.
is this another D20?
Yep.
16.
Swarming. Favoring masses of low-level gangers over fewer, more elite members.
So, okay. Interesting. So the main gang makes their money from lobbying the government,
The city government,
and this is done through swarming. By
that's their style.
so are they ecology protesters then? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there's just
Environmentalists?
maybe.
Are they
Let's see.
like, heat for everyone, like a heat for everyone movement? They got to have some if their main income comes from lobbying the government. There's got to be an on the upside of this gang, you know? Like you could make it that they had origins in being one of the bloodiest street gangs in this city. And then because of a series of events, they have now transformed into this. So all their core leaders are these people that used to do like really terrible shit.
I think they still do really terrible shit when they lobby the city government. Like they
Yeah.
don't just like host a pancake breakfast fundraiser.
Yeah. Like this is an extrapolation on the falseness of environmental politics in our current society, right?
Okay.
Like there's so much lip service being paid to the environmental action of our current world. And yet, if you look at it, like nothing's actually being done. There's all these like fake masturbatory actions by the government and corporations, like, oh, this really matters to us at X corporation. Environmentalism is really important to us, but it's like if they really actually cared about it, the government and this corporation would stop doing X, right? Like that is a common theme in our current society is nobody trusts institutions, governments, and corporations. So you could just double down on that like this gang works in that fake sense of environmentalism and uses what we just described. Like the leaders of it are fucking cutthroat, just like diabolical, crazy people who have the front facing aspect of being environmentally conscious.
And they have their, through threats, intimidation, blackmail, extortion, have their hands on the puppet strings of city government So if you want something done, even the
Mhm.
corpse, if they want something done,
And they can make you look real bad by swarming you with activists.
flash mob. Oh yeah, they're paid protesters.
Yeah, man.
Cool. What is this gang's strength? Let's get weirder.
Oh my gosh. D20 time, huh? All right.
Hmm.
15.
They have a monopoly on something.
Yeah. They have a monopoly on environmentally conscious activism.
Yep.
That one's easy. We just rolled right into that one.
Okay. Recent gang events.
13 again.
They moved their headquarters.
Okay. The gang has gone through a pivotal moment where they've been able to move their headquarters from its roots in one of the lower districts, not the worst districts, but up to one of the, not the top, but the near top, or maybe even the top district. Like they exploded in popularity to the point where they were funded or amassed enough power that they were able to move all the way up to the top. And that's where their headquarters is now.
Well, this is a mid this is the district gang. Do we want the district gang headquartered in a different district?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like
Okay.
that's, and it's just happened too. And it's a huge point of contention within the gang. Like it gives the PCs an in to the inner politics and how things are breaking down inside of this gang. Like there needs to be conflict within the gang, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Sold. Thank you for reminding me that it's a recent event. And then current gang goals.
11.
Regroup after some recent reversal.
Interesting.
Why'd they leave their old headquarters?
Mm-hmm. I mean, does a recent reversal that counts, right? What is a reversal?
They lost their old headquarters.
Okay. They lost it to this development. Well, no, but that's in a different part of the city.
Maybe their old headquarters were in mid tier.
Mm-hmm. Because like I originally was thinking like, what if their old headquarters was in this development area and they had to give it up and they traded it for.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was unpopular with the gang.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're trying to regroup after losing that headquarter in their sort of historical heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like have sold out at this point.
Yeah,
All right, is it time to name this gang?
it is. First, we have the name element,
17.
intimidating adjective, and then the gang element,
10.
horde.
Intimidating adjective. Wow.
Maybe they just have a terrible name.
And their name is intimidating adjective. Um, but it has to incorporate the name horde into it.
I mean, that's what the table says. We can just pick, we can just
Mm-hmm.
name them.
So an adjective is a word that modifies or describes a noun or pronoun. Peaceful, optimistic, hopeless, elated, euphoric, afraid. So an intimidating word that an intimidating adjective. Let's
I thought of the answer my 13-year-old self would say, would think is cool. They're the
what
crazy horde.
the crazy horde.
Oh man, that should be my band name.
Okay. Let's see. Interesting. This is hard because you want it to sound cool because you don't want your players to laugh when you tell them what the name of the gang is.
I don't know how we do that with horde being the other part.
Well, horde actually fits with the fact that they can flash mob to get what they want.
Yeah,
Terrifying, frightening, formidable, scary, horrible, terrible, fearful.
I just saw a thing jump out on my Google search, and what do you think about they call themselves the ethical horde?
Oh, I love that. I love it.
I don't know if that's intimidating, but like, yeah, we're
I
the
love
ethical
it.
horde.
The ethical horde. It is so it's it is so in tune with like just like social commentary about right now. Like my girlfriend and I really like that show Harley Quinn on HBO Max, or I guess now it's just called Max. And there's this part where Poison Ivy becomes the CEO of the Legion of Doom, and she initiates this campaign of quote unquote socially conscious evil. It's fucking hilarious. I highly
That's
recommend the
amazing.
show. Yeah, so I like what you just said kind of keyed me into that, ethical horde. It's not an intimidating adjective, but I do really like it.
Yeah, and when you're using tables like these, it's just a prompt. If you get a better idea,
You can always re-roll.
okay, cool. So we've got the main gang whose schemes will influence our players. I assume if we're starting them in the middle tier, we need to make 4 more corps, but we've sketched out this world where it's terribly cold. The most valuable commodity is heat.
Hmm.
There's some shadowy quasi-religious organization called the Edda that most people follow their dictates. The Edda Pact, I guess, or maybe the regional superpowers. The dominant corp is Volga. Um, and the main district is a district with many canals
Hmm.
and a parkland that is being torn down to build a new development at the behest of Volga Corp, creating all sorts of problems. The main gang in the district is the Ethical Horde,
Hmm.
whose primary money is through lobbying the city government.
Hmm. This is awesome. This is very unique.
Yep, we made it weird, and I feel like it's still cyberpunk.
Yep.
So we'll zoom in on some other details the next time we record,
Hmm.
and make the next episode section of this, and then maybe we'll get into it. Any closing thoughts?
You know, I think the most important closing thought on this is to have fun with it. That's
Yeah.
that's really like why this is enjoyable. Like this started for Jesse and I back at Deluxe Diner over endless cups of coffee and a couple of franchisees. That's really where this kind of partnering and coming up with things. I don't know what kind of blanking on what we call this, but like this creative activity that Jesse and I like to do together. This comes from us just hanging out together. And if it wasn't fun, we wouldn't be doing it. And I think that's the thing is like always remember to have fun when you create for a role playing game.
Yep. And if it's not fun, like Kevin Crawford says, stop it.
Yeah, stop it.
So, all right, we've been the Johnny Mandas. If you need to get a hold of us, you can always email at us at johntymantis@gmail.com. We are on Hex as Wanty Mantis because I misspelled it when we created the account.
Mm-hmm.
And ostensibly, we're still on Threads. Just email us if you want to talk to us.
Yeah.
Um, I'm at Jingo's Fett on Hex.
Yep. And I am Jingoist Fett on Twitter.
All right, get out there and create some hyper-capitalist hellscape dystopias.
Yeah. What Jesse said.